Hello and welcome to the Travel Fuel Podcast. This is your host, Todd Duplain. We're the show for the person that has a travel bug but maybe doesn't know where to go or where to start. I'll share all the details of some great trips I personally researched, planned, and gone on, with tips for activities, great coffee spots, awesome restaurants. If you want to follow these details as a blueprint, well, it's basically planned out for you, or at the very least, I hope you find some inspiration for your next adventure. On this episode, I'm going to be flying solo. I couldn't talk my wife into joining me, and I wasn't sure my 2 or 4-year-olds were going to make for very good content after about 30 seconds, so here we go. A lot of the podcasts, or all of them so far, have been kind of national park outdoor, and this is more of a family trip, so we're taking a little different direction for you today. Last spring, we decided to put together a family trip with my wife and 2 small kids, and we went to Denver, Colorado. I personally would love to live in the area and have more mountains in my life, but for now, I'll have to settle with visiting. Just to put everything in context for this trip, my son was 3.5 and my daughter was 18 months old, and we traveled on Tuesday through Sunday in the later part of May. So let's get started on the trip. So traveling with children obviously brings in some additional considerations when considering how you're going to get somewhere. Road trip, we live in Southern California, to Denver, looking at probably 2 days and 20 hours of traveling, given we're probably going to have to stop several times with the little ones, so driving was definitely not an option for us. Living out here in Southern California, while I was planning this trip, I had started to hear a lot more about the Santa Barbara airport, which is pretty close for us, and started doing a little more research, because living in Southern California, if you do, you want to avoid LAX at all costs. It has the reputation or the ranking as the world's worst airport, and it's well-deserved that they have that. So anything you can do to avoid that, we try to. And by default, that's typically the Burbank airport, but thought I'd check into the Santa Barbara thing. So taking a look, found that we could fly nonstop to Denver for really the same price as going out of Burbank or LAX. Might not be the case on all fares, but even a few more bucks to deal with a scenic drive up the coast to go to this really tiny airport could be well worth it. So it's worth a check-in. They have 11 nonstop routes currently, basically to destinations west of the Rockies. And apparently they're adding Chicago also in June of 2020. So quite a few options to go nonstop. So the flight out, we took a later flight. We didn't get into Denver till about 10:30. So not much to do except grab a rental car, head for the hotel. We stayed at the Hilton Garden Inn, Denver Downtown, the official title, over on Welton Street. This was a strategic stay for us because in April, we're going to Hawaii. I'm going to be doing the Lava Man Triathlon. We're staying at a Hilton property, and I'll get into this in more detail in a later post or blog, something to that effect. But basically, this Hilton American Express Surpass card, you get 12 points for every dollar you spend. Automatic gold status in their honors program, which meant we got a free breakfast every morning that we were there. Really great buffet. So that's the cost savings there, and socking those points away towards this other trip to basically go to Hawaii for free. But again, more on that later. The downtown location of this hotel is also awesome. It's a couple blocks from the 16th Street Mall. So easy walking access to lots of restaurants, shops, and whatnot. We'll get into 16th Street Mall here a little bit later in the podcast. But Wednesday, the first full day there, basically we would end up experiencing a full sampling of weather. A friend of mine sent me a picture Tuesday before we left. It had snowed crazy overnight, but by the time we got there, it was gone. So those first couple days were sort of overcast and cool, and then the last couple days of the trip, the sun came out, and it was perfect weather for the remainder of the stuff. But that first Wednesday that we were there was one of the coolest days, so we did the indoor activities. After breakfast, we went to the Denver Museum of Nature and Science for the kids. If you've ever been to a natural history museum, I dig them. Dinosaur skeletons and all kinds of cool stuff. And they even have a spot you can watch the paleontologists work. They were studying and cleaning a Triceratops skeleton, which was super cool. Don't know if the kids or myself like this place better, but it was awesome. Checked it all out. We could have spent 3 days in there, but hit on the high points, what the kids wanted to see. And they also have really cool cafe with lots of dining options that are really reasonably priced, surprisingly. tend to go to these kind of places and they have a captive audience and want to charge you like at a baseball game or something. But it was super reasonable. So we got some lunch, headed back, and did some naps at the hotel. And then for the evening, we went to the downtown aquarium. So if you're going to go to multiple attractions when you're in a city, I'd recommend looking into City Pass. I have a link in this blog post that we also did on this trip at travel-fuel.com. You can check it out. But basically, it's available in most major cities. You can pick 3, 4, 5 different attractions. You buy them in a bundle. We saved 37% just on the 3 attractions that we would end up going to for the adults. And they also have tickets available for the kids. So if you're going to be traveling, check it out. Free money. Take advantage of it. The aquarium itself, super cool. Been to a ton of aquariums. This one far exceeded my expectations. It's owned by the Landry's Group. It was like Tillman Fertitta, the billion-dollar buyer guy. I don't know if you know. He owns the Landry's Group, Houston Rockets, Mastros, Bubba Gump, Rainforest, all that. So they had their own little flair, kind of his style. And they had an on-site restaurant called, wait for it, Aquarium. Yep. So we didn't eat there, but the reviews are decent and the atmosphere seemed cool. They have like a floor-to-ceiling aquarium that you view from the other side that you get to check it out while you're eating. So we didn't eat there, but it could be worth a stop if you're in the mood. The aquarium itself was massive. You couldn't really tell from the outside, but once you got in there, there's over 500 species. Just when you think you're going to be coming into the end and popping out, it's a whole nother display of items. They have other otter exhibits, and then most surprisingly, they had Sumatran tiger exhibits. So my son absolutely dug that. First aquarium I've ever been to that had tigers in it. So kind of this like rainforest vibe that they've set up inside. So it was really cool. I recommend checking it out. Once that wrapped up, it was dinner time. So everybody told me that I had to have green chili when I went to Denver. And a friend there, he's a firefighter, and they always know the best spots. And he recommended Sam's number 3. It's just a couple blocks from the hotel, so it was easy to walk over there. It's been in Denver since 1927. Extensive menu, great food, super kid-friendly. Great prices, like kids' meals were normal kids' prices, not in California where they charge you for an adult, even though they're giving you a quarter of the food. But it's another topic for another day. Anyhow, one massive 2-pound combo burrito later, and I think I was ready to call it a night. So headed back, hit the hay, and got ready for the next day. And that next day would be Thursday. So it was the last day of the kind of cool, damp, overcast weather. And we have, as I mentioned, my friend and my wife had a friend that live in Littleton, which is just outside of Denver. So we headed over there for little meet up with them after breakfast. We connected at the Littleton Museums. Give the kids a chance. Great spot for them to burn off some energy. It's key to traveling with them is to make sure they're occupied and not getting too pent up. So the museum, they have exhibits on the inside with the history of the city, hands-on stuff for the kids. The coolest part, though, is they have 2 living history farms on the property. There's an 1860s homestead farm and an 1890s urban farm. And they have buildings, animals. There's even a blacksmith there, and he lets you come into the blacksmith workshop with the kids and shows them the craft. Just really cool. The whole thing. It's sort of small, so you won't spend a ton of time there, but it was kind of a good little stop off there. And if you're in Littleton, we grabbed lunch at a place called the View House. Would have been better in warmer weather. Super casual, good food. And they have like a rooftop dining section, a bunch of games and stuff outside. So being cold, we didn't get to take too much advantage of that part, but food was awesome. Grubbed up and then headed back for the evening back into Denver. And that evening we headed over to that 16th Street Mall that I had mentioned earlier. Like a few minutes walk from the hotel, so super easy. And what it is, it's a pedestrian mall. It's like 1.25 miles long that runs up and down 16th Street. Tons of shops, restaurants, activities, plenty of things to do there. It also has a free hop-on, hop-off shuttle bus. It's constantly running up and down multiple buses. So if the kids are getting tired of walking, you just jump on there, 2 minutes, and you're down to the end. Kids wanted pizza, so we hit up Grimaldi's Pizza. Sorry to tell you it's closed, but if you have a hankering, I'm sure there's plenty down there. There's lots of competition, so everybody's raising their game down there. And that was kind of the end of that night, and moved into Friday. Friday morning, it was like we woke up in a whole nother place. Sun was shining, weather was perfect, low 70s, couldn't have been better. So it was a perfect day for the zoo. Headed over to the Denver Zoo. This was the third item on our city pass that I mentioned. So we did the Science Museum, the aquarium, and the zoo were the three options we did on that. You can also, again, do 4 or 5 things if you want to do more stuff or have more time. The Denver Zoo sits at the north end of this city park, 84 acres. Pretty popular, so be prepared for crowds. We went on a weekday. There was tons of buses full of kids coming in and stuff, but we still got in pretty fast, so it wasn't like we had to wait a lot, just a lot of people. It's a good zoo as far as zoos go. Kids enjoyed themselves. Check out the Malayan tapir. I probably didn't say that right. Tapir. It's like the love child of an elephant and an anteater. First time I ever saw one of those, but it's pretty cool. But yeah, that was it. Just your standard zoo. It's a nice one. After that and naps, it was kind of time for Dad to get a little something in. So REI, if you're familiar with the REI stores, they have a flagship store there that I really wanted to check out. I could spend hours in a regular REI, so the flagship one was supersized and definitely on my must-see list. It's in the old 1901 Denver Tramway Power Company building. And it sits right on the South Platte River. 90,000 square feet of REI goodness for you to check out. They have a kayak course right on the river, a bike test trail out front. There's a stove and water filtration station, a cafe, children's play area, so much more. Geeking out here a little bit, but if you're an REI fan, check it out. You won't be disappointed. Dinner that night. After I got my fill there, back to 16th Street and let my son Henry pick, and he chose his namesake, Henry's Tavern. So it was cool. Get to sit outside. Again, the weather was perfect. Good people watching. Nice American pub fare. Super satisfying and great way to finish up our Friday. And then moving into Saturday, after breakfast, we headed out early to Boulder, Colorado. And it was a super easy 30-ish mile drive from where we were staying in Denver to get out there. Drove around, checked out the University of Colorado, gave ourselves a little self-guided tour of the city, and then we went down to the Pearl Street Mall. It's another pedestrian mall. It's got probably one of the most popular quote-unquote touristy places in Boulder, but tons of stores, coffee shops, pubs, restaurants, artwork, festivals, street performers, all kinds of stuff going on down there. And they actually had a big running race, I don't know, half marathon or something going on the next day. So they had all those pre-race festivities with the vendors and all that exhibitors all set up. So I dig that stuff too. It was kind of cool to check out. And they got play areas with like climbing rocks for the kids and those fountains that squirt up out of the water and get your kids all wet. Plenty of that there. And then for lunch, they have a Ruthie's Boardwalk Social right there in the Pearl Street Mall. It's really little more than like a window. And they slang out their unique takes on gourmet grilled cheese and sides. So if you got little kids, grilled cheese always tends to work well. So hung out by one of the fountains, had our grilled cheeses, took in all the festivities, and just soaked it up. Enjoyed the nice weather for a while longer before heading back to Denver. And then that last evening, we jumped on the bus there on the 16th Street Mall and took it down to the end to Union Station, just kind of a little historic landmark there. And all around that area, you have like Larimer Square, and Union Station itself has a ton of like shops and bars and restaurants and all kinds of cool stuff. And the old ticket terminal, they've restored it into the terminal bar, and now it's dedicated to serving libations, 30 draft beers on tap, all that kind of stuff. If that's your thing, check it out. It makes for a good photo op at the least. We hit up a spot called Blue Agave Grill. It's an easy stop with the kids, good, decent Mexican Southwestern fare. So if you're in the mood for that, check it out. And then on the way back, all along the 16th Street Mall, they have these little like house looking things that basically fit 1 or 2 people, and they serve up different foods. So they like go get Thai food or whatever. But do yourself a favor, stop by Lil D's, Lil, and then just the letter D. and get some hot mini donuts for dessert. Super killer. Topped it all off. And sadly, this concluded our last night in Denver, but we'd still have a half day before we had to fly out because we had a later flight. So Sunday morning, after we packed up, again, the flight was until 4:40, so we had a little time to check a couple more places off the list. First one I wanted to go to was the Red Rocks Amphitheater. I'm sure you probably heard about it. It's been there for over 100 years. Big open-air amphitheater. It's located kind of near Morrison, Colorado. Not too far of a drive from Denver. There's constant activity we found when we got there, not just when concerts are going on. People exercise on the steps of the thing, running up and down. There's a restaurant cafe there. We can sit out and overlook the canyon. They also have the Colorado Music Hall of Fame. And all that stuff's free to go check out during the daytime. So it's really cool. Love to get back there someday and actually watch a concert there. But it's a cool spot to check out in the daytime as well. And then our last stop, after that, we went over to Golden, Colorado. Not a lot of time, but we did get to drive up Lookout Mountain to Buffalo Bill's grave, Buffalo Bill Cody. Check that out real quick. And then when you drive back down the other side of the mountain, you get really spectacular views of the valley below. And you'll see the old Coors factory hard at work down there. Never stops. So I was pumping out the Rocky Mountain goodness. Stopped at a spot called Cast Iron Tavern there in Golden. Cool spot. One of those patios where everybody had their dog just hanging out. Grabbed some lunch and then headed back to the airport and caught our flight home. As I mentioned about the Santa Barbara airport, like the best thing about it, not only is it small and easy to deal with, but is when you get back. So we got back at just after 6, grabbed our stuff, and we were back home at like 7. There's nothing worse than being worn out after a long, busy trip, especially when you got kids with you. Getting back and you just got to sit in LA traffic coming from LAX for 2 or more hours, depending on what time it is. And just all you want to do is get home. So again, the back end of the trip using that airport is really the best. So tons more that we would have liked to do, but we barely scratched the surface. There's so much outdoor parks, hiking, more museums. The U.S. Mint is there, Coors Field, Miami Stadium. I don't know, all kinds of stuff. And then obviously if you go in winter, you got all that side of winter activities that you can do there too. Well, we will definitely be back. So that was the end of the trip. And just for the parents that are listening, it's a message. So I can't tell you how many people I talk to. They have kids and they just never take a chance on traveling. It definitely can add some stress, but it's manageable and well worth it. There's a huge world out there and you owe it to yourself to get out there and see it. I've been fortunate enough to travel with my kids quite a bit, and the growth that I've found that they get from these experiences is priceless. Once you do it the first time, you'll find what works for you, and you'll see that it really is possible and manageable. A couple tips that have been helpful for us in traveling with the kids. First, that once they move on from that infant car seat into that like bigger convertible one, it can seem a little daunting to try to lug that thing through the airport, especially if you have more than one. We have 2 kids. The solution is this padded car seat backpack. You can link to it through the blog post. I have a link to it on Amazon. And in full disclosure, I'll probably make like 28 cents if you buy it through that link. But check it out. It goes on there and you just wear it on your back. It's kind of big, but it's comfy and easy. I wear one and my wife wears the other one. And then you have your hands free for pushing the luggage and wrangling your children. If you have more than 2 kids, I don't know what to tell you. Get a nanny, or maybe only 2 of them have the car seats. So, or I got a good recommendation for a urologist for a vasectomy for you. So just teasing. Do what you do. Anyway, so you got those things in your back. You can check them. Some people don't like to check the car seats. So then you can just walk them and then do the gate check thing too. Both of those options, of course, are free. The alternative, you can rent one with your rental car, but they're typically $15 or more per seat per day. So you can do that math. We were there 5 days with the rental car, 2 seats, 15 bucks, $30. That's $150 just for the car seats for that little trip. So that money can add up quick. So it's a good alternative. And for the stroller, obviously you can gate check those as well, or regular check them. Santa Barbara's a tiny airport, so you can just check it and walk the kids through. But everyday strollers can be a little heavier, and if you use a side-by-side or a double, which we have, and we've tried to take that thing through the airport, and it can be kind of a pain. They got to take it around the side through security and swab it and check it out, and it just takes a little more time. So I also linked up in the blog these umbrella strollers that we use, and they fold down like an umbrella, hence the name, and you can actually just throw them right on the conveyor belt and push them through security for easy transport and storage. And then you're not dealing with the bigger one, and space is saved that way. So last thing is, of course, I'm sure you're all aware, but up until the kid turns 2, they get to fly for free as a lap infant. So we've always liked to take advantage of that. Now my daughter has just turned 2, so that's out. And now we're going to have another wrinkle in our travel budgeting. But if you got one under 2, get out there and take advantage of that. So there's obviously countless advice out there for flying and traveling with kids. So you might have a little trial and error in store for you. But the first step really is to just get out there and go. I think you'll find that you can absolutely travel pretty easy with your little ones and have a great time. So, yeah, that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope you find this useful and inspirational. If you want, feel free to message me with any questions. You can hit me up on Instagram or send me an email through the website, travel-fuel.com, and I'd be happy to do anything I can to help you. So thanks for sharing your day with us. You can find all the info from the podcast and the blog on our website, travel-fuel.com, along with pictures from the trip and links to our social media and email. If you enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe, share, and leave us a rating. I'd really, 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 really appreciate it. Thanks again for listening. I hope we fueled some inspiration for your next adventure, and we'll see you next time.